September 11th started out like any other day. It was very sunny out. Just felt like a great day. My routine was getting my daughter dressed, packing her bag, and heading out to drop her off at my mother's house. When I got to my mother's house, she met me on the front porch, and she never hadn't met me on the front porch. But when I pulled up in my car, I could see her face expression, and she has this concerned look on her face. So I immediately jumped out my car, grabbed my daughter, and hustled up to the front door. I asked Mom what was wrong, and she said, a plane just flew into a building. I said, Mom, what are you talking about? She said, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. And at that point in time, I looked over her shoulder. Mom's about 5'3", I'm 6'3". So when I looked over her shoulder into the home, I could see the television, and on the television screen is a recap of a 747 plane squaring itself up and slamming into the World Trade Center. Immediately, I ran to the trunk of my car, I grabbed my gear out, my uniform, and I threw it on. I'm driving down the West Side Highway. As I'm looking up at the building, and getting closer and closer, I can see pieces, or you can see that those pieces are they're not debris. You see people falling, taking their own lives, and that was devastating to me. But I wanted to get there to help them out. I wanted to get there to help evacuate. As I look up again, I can see the tower collapsing, and you hear the banging and crumbling of debris. You hear the floors collapsing on top of one another, and then you hear this crushing sound and glass breaking away. I remember pulling over to the side of the road, jumping out of my car, and I see this ash just roaring in my direction. So I took my head, I blew a couple breaths of air into my shirt, my t-shirt, and then as the ashes about to engulf me, I just buried my head into my t-shirt. I'm saying to myself, there's no way, you're a Marine. There's no way that I'm gonna die on my knees like this. I remember just running towards the pile of rubble and debris, and all I saw was people running into each other. They all looked one color, and that was gray. You see people bleeding and crying, and you had our first responders who were running in the opposite direction, telling me not to go further. You know, we're evacuating, come with me. And I remember telling them, I'm a Marine, we don't go backwards, we go forward. And I just continued to run forward. We approached the edge of the pile of rubble, and we would test it with our foot to see if it was able to be crossed. Working as a team, every pocket that we would come upon, we would yell, and then the other person would listen, and then the other person would yell, is there anyone down there? This is United States Marines. This is the Marines, is there anyone down there? And then someone else would listen. As I'm on my hands and knees looking at this hole, and there's black smoke coming out, it just felt like, here it is, just another hole. But I said, let me do my due diligence, right? Let me call down inside. So I immediately yelled into this hole, is there anyone down there? This is United States Marines. And I got a voice. The voice was faint, but it sounded like a voice. I remember yelling over to Staff Sergeant Carnes and telling him, I think we have someone. So he went to his hands and knees and started crawling across. And when we were about head to head, we both yelled into this hole, "Is there anyone down there?" This is United States Marines. And that voice, that same voice yelled back up. It was still somewhat faint. You could tell that voice was shaky and panicky, and I wanted to get to him. And as I got above it, I could see the hand moving, and he's like, "Can you see me? Can you see my hand?" And I was like, "Yes, I can." And he was like so grateful at the fact that that he was located. And you could just tell he was in a bad situation. He was completely buried. And I remember having to make my way down right above him, and I'm pulling debris off of him and trying to expose him. We then took a pause and went back topside. And I remember yelling for help as everyone started to fill the hole. And they had the jaws of life, and they had water and oxygen. And the hole started to become crowded. So a system was put in place to where they'll dig for like 10 minutes as hard as they can, and then a new fresh set of hands would come in. And they did this for about an hour. I stayed in the hole the entire time. I just felt there's no way that I'm gonna leave this person. I gotta see this mission through. And they put him on a scoop board, and here it is, they're moving him out of the hole. And as they get him, they're having difficulty getting him out of the hole. I remember running over to that spine board and that he was laying on, and pushing him out of the hole. And it felt so great to see him freed.